Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to today's show. A little backstory on why I wanted to share this with you. And really what I want to share with you is the fact that Google Analytics is going away. It's dead. Dead like dinner, I guess. I don't know. What is that saying? Anyway, it is a huge it's been a topic of conversation for a while. Like this has been an ongoing thing, but we're down to the wire, and I think that is one of the issues that a lot of us are unsure what that wire means. So that's what I want to share with you today, and I'm going to share the backstory on how I realized I didn't really know what the wire was, and why I feel like maybe you don't know either. So hence, I'm going to share what I know with you. Okay. So as you guys are coming in, let me know what is going on in your world today. I see Deanna's here from Florida. How's the weather in Florida, y'all? So some of you guys know, maybe you know, maybe you don't. If you don't know, I moved from Tampa, Florida. I lived there for almost 20 years, back to Virginia. And it is like in the 50s here today. This is like wintertime in Tampa. So we've been like, what is happening? Like, did we make an error in our judgment here? It's the middle of June. It should be warm, but no, it is chilly here. So anyway, let me share real quick a story about why I realized, or more specifically, how I realized that maybe I didn't know what I needed to know about the fact that Google Analytics is dying. We were at a Mastermind event weekend before last in Nashville, and one of our new Mastermind members is Chris Mercer. And I've known Chris for years, and I'll tell you how in just a minute. But Chris is a Google Analytics expert and measuring expert specifically when it comes to online marketing. And he gave a little spiel about Google Analytics dying and why it was important for us as marketers to know. And here we are, there's some really serious marketers in the room, 6, 7, maybe even 8-figure business owners. I think there is one 8-figure business owner. And we're all kind of like looking around the table, like, did you know that? And, we're, kind of casually shaking our head, like, I knew we were supposed to like shift over, but like, we didn't know like a lot of what he was sharing with us. And for me, I thought, hey, team, go into Google Analytics and, migrate us over and we'll be good to go. I thought it was that simple. And it is not that simple. Okay. So I'm going to dig in a little bit so you guys can understand why it's important. Even if you don't have Google Analytics set up right now today for your business, what I'm sharing with you is going to be super, super important for you. So Deanna, rub it in, girl. It's beautiful in 81. Juan, good to see you. Glad you're here. Okay. So the biggest thing I think for us is traditionally Google Analytics has been like the gold standard when it comes to, tracking our numbers, and it's been free. So it's like amazing, right? Except like a lot of people didn't use it, or even if they set it up, they didn't know how to set it up and they didn't really use it correctly. So those are all scenarios that I personally found myself to be in those scenarios where I didn't have it set up correctly or weren't using it correctly, etc. So the big thing, though, I think for marketers to understand is there's going to be no more cookies. So no more tracking, clearing our cookies and that kind of thing, because those are going away, which is going to be interesting. But I think for those of us who are numbers allergic, I want to share a few stories with you around why numbers are so important and why even if you don't have Google Analytics set up or you don't understand the dynamics of what's happening yet, I want to plant the seed on why you really need to pay attention to numbers, because they do matter. And I was one of those people who didn't really pay too much attention to the numbers. And I'll share that story with you in a minute. But let's talk about why numbers matter real quick. At the root of it, if I could just simplify it all the way down to like something we can all grasp, is if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And I don't know who said this initially, but it is so true. Like if we are not measuring things, one, we don't know if it works, and more importantly, we can't improve it or continue doing more of it. It's like that rinse and repeat thing. Like, right? If you know something is working, you can rinse and repeat it over and over again. But if you have no way to measure it, then there's no way for you to really know if it's working, right? So, but here's the problem for most of us. When as a creator or a creative myself, you show me numbers and my eyes cross and I just like zone out, like, okay, somebody else take care of that. Like, I used to tell my husband all the time, I'm like, honey, I can make money, but after that, it's somebody else's problem. I just couldn't manage the details of it. Like the numbers just make my eyes cross. But let me share my story with numbers. So going back to my friend Chris Mercer, I think it was 2017, 2018. We hired Chris to set up my Google Analytics at the time. And at the time, I was pretty resistant to it. One, because I didn't really understand why we needed it. And two, it was pricey. Like, I'm just going to be totally transparent. We paid $10,000 to get Google Analytics set up and measuring the things that we felt like we needed to measure and that kind of thing. And I was like, well, that's a lot of money. And do we really need to do that? But long story short, it was a really great investment. And let me share my story about why it mattered. And more importantly, how it tied to the money. Okay. Because I think this is the key for us to understand is, being able to measure something and knowing something works is one thing. And it's good for you to say, okay, well, I hear you, but like, how's that tied to the money? So one of the ways that it helped me was being able to identify my traffic sources. So I could say, okay, look, Twitter is my number one social media traffic referral source because I could see it. I had no clue at that point. Then I knew that Pinterest was driving a lot of traffic to my site. And sometimes those two things would flip flop, like and interesting enough, it's still, but both of those are great referral traffic sources for me. Why was the next question. Like, what am I sharing on Twitter that's driving results? And it was my blog content. So I was like, okay, I know that people are engaging with my blog content on Twitter. Therefore, let's do that more. Right. So, and I'll share more stories around that in just a second about how that mattered and how it tied to this, how that ended up creating revenue for me. But one of the things, and this is a super powerful story, is I was able to see my top performing content. So way back in the day, this is a story that's really old, but it is also a very powerful story because anybody else can do the same thing. I was at a mastermind again, a different one, was in War Room, Digital Marketers War Room, and everybody was talking about list size. And I was like, well, I hope nobody asked me my list size because everybody was saying, oh, I've got 1.5 million on my list. And, all these big numbers were flying around. And I'm like, my numbers were substantially smaller. But that's in that moment, I realized I needed a lead magnet and I needed to be promoting. And I needed to be moving people from social media to a place that I owned. And I was like, okay, what is that thing? What's that value-based freebie that my person is going to need? So I went back to Google Analytics and I pulled up my top performing blog content. And one of my top performing blogs was entitled like 17 Facebook post ideas, something like that. Don't quote me exactly, but I think it was something like that. And I was like, oh, like it was being shared all over the place. And, obviously this is a hot topic. People want ideas. They want to be able to share good stuff on social. So that turned into a freebie that I have given away over 100,000 times. but that's just a piece of it. So I took that blog post, I beefed it up, I turned it into something visual. It ended up being 27 Facebook post ideas. And I've rebranded it, updated it over the years, and it's still to this day my top performing freebie. So like I said, over 100,000 times. So how does that tie to the money if you just gave it away, right? Well, that was a part of a funnel. That was the first part of the funnel. You got the freebie, then we offered you something that was low cost, and then sold you into something higher ticket. That one giveaway that generated that I got the idea for my top performing content generated over $1.7 million in revenue so far. So that's how it ties to the money. When you know that you can see your top performing content, in that particular example, that's how I used that top performing content in a way that drove revenue. So like I say, anybody can do the same thing. And then another way, well, remember I talked about how I could see my top performing traffic, but what that meant when it come to my website, right? Like if I could see that, Twitter was sending me a lot of traffic or Pinterest was sending me a lot of traffic, like, so what? Like, are they doing anything on your website? Like, are they opting in for something, or are they, buying something, or, from that point on, you got their eyeballs in that moment on your website. What are they doing? And yeah, that's what numbers do for you when you know what people are actually doing once they hit your website. So we were able to track things like, people purchasing things or opting into freebies or whatever. And that's where we spawned the whole idea of putting content freebies on web specific types of content. So for example, if somebody came to my website for Facebook content, I would offer up a freebie around Facebook in the sidebar. And that again gave me so many amazing opt-ins that we were able to translate into revenue. So those are just my stories around how how numbers matter, and how we were actually able to leverage the power of knowledge, knowing that, these are the things that are, driving a result for us. But it's so much bigger than that, honestly. Those are just a few stories I wanted to share with you. But I want to go back to Google Analytics real quick, because hopefully by now I've convinced you that the numbers matter. And that you're like, okay, I hear you. I don't really have Google Analytics set up correctly, or, I don't really know what I need to know. So let's dig into what you do need to know. Okay. One, like I said, Google Analytics is getting ready to go away. So you need to be prepared, because even if you don't have Google Analytics yet, hopefully, like I said, I've sold you on the idea that you do need numbers. They are important, but you need to be prepared first and foremost. And I think knowledge is one of those things that gives us that level of awareness and, helps us make better decisions. So for me, when Mercer was talking about all these things at the Mastermind event, and I was like, I didn't know that. Did you know that? We were all kind of like leaning in and saying, I didn't understand that. I thought, we just migrated over and everything worked magically. And that's not the case. So being prepared and understanding that Google Analytics, the new platform that's replacing Google Analytics, which is GA4, is a totally separate entity. And just because you say you have a GA4 account does not mean it is set up and is going to be of any value to you. So that was where I was. I was like, oh, I have a GA4 account, so I'm good to go. No. I am not good to go. And more than likely, even if you think you have a GA4 account, you may be saying to yourself, well, I've done that. I've checked that box, so I'm good. I think the big thing for us to understand is Google Analytics doesn't care a bit about our historical, or GA4 doesn't care about our historical data. So anything that's in Google Analytics, it's not going to import that data. So and nor is it going to access it, which is what I thought. So from the point that you set up Google Analytics, GA4, the new thing, it will start reporting data from that point forward. So it doesn't pull your existing data in. So that's the first thing you need to understand. They're two very separate platforms. And like I say, that was something I misunderstood, which is why I'm sharing that with you. GA4 accounts are simple to set up because that's the way Google has kind of presented it. Like you go in and, oh, look, there's a migrate button. That's all I have to do. But like I said before, it is not, they're two separate platforms. And with the new GA4 platform, it has to be set up. And it is not something that's super simple to do. So just simply by, moving your your Google Analytics account over to GA4, it doesn't mean that you are in business. Okay. So that's the first thing I want you to know. The nice thing about Google Analytics versus the GA4, transition, if you will, is that the Google Analytics 4 or the GA4 is going to have a lot better resources for us, a lot better performance for us. So you're going to have access to things like predictive analysis, as well as like deep insights into like AI, because there's going to be an AI component like machine learning. AI is everywhere. So why would we think it would be any different with the new GA4 platform? So it's going to be able to it's going to generate custom reports and help you track up to like 300 events. And events are like, honestly, I'm still like learning all the ins and outs of the lingo too, but it's basically recording differently and more intensely and at a higher level with better output for us. So that's really, really awesome. And let's see, Google Ads, in my opinion, based on what I'm just touching on as it comes to understanding what this whole new GA4 thing is all about, I think Google Ads are going to re-emerge as a real force. Now, for a lot of us marketers, we've been using Google Ads or YouTube ads, kind of hit the spot for a while, and of course TikTok as well. But I think the data is really what is going to end up pulling a lot of marketers back into the Google Analytics, the Google Ads platform, because they're going to be improved tremendously because they're going to be pulling performance data from within the platform. So it can help you create better ads, improve conversion rates, and so much more. So, it's going to help you to no longer guess, because you're going to have a lot more data. And with the additional help of AI, I think it's going to supercharge Google Ads at a whole new level. And because Google has so much data on us, let's just be real, they are going to be, I think, the data mecca, where, like with Facebook has had to reel in some of the data that they've given us access to because of privacy concerns. And there's still that factor for sure with Google Analytics or GA4. I'm interchanging those a little bit. Hopefully I don't mess you up with that. But the key is that this new platform is supposed to have higher privacy protections, but better predictive analysis, which is going to, I guess it's kind of their way of bypassing the privacy laws, I suppose, because it's going to be based off, the data is going to be based off of, them basically predicting instead of seeing for sure, I guess, because they're not tracking us through cookies anymore. And I'm probably not saying that exactly right from the techie side of it, but that's the way my brain is thinking through the process. And then there's going to be obviously greater agility for us, again, as marketers. When it comes to today's world and the online space in particular, I'm telling y'all, I mean, having been around since the early days of the internet, the evolution of the internet and specifically the data, back in the day, like, I started in 1991 in the online space. So data was not top priority then. Now it is the absolute gold standard. And a lot of these big companies that's their currency, is the data. So, being on top of that and leading in that space and being ahead of that, so that you can tailor your reports to your unique needs and, get get faster access to the data that's within the UA platform. So you can make real decisions in real time versus just guessing. And, at the end of the day, like, who doesn't want that, right? So hopefully that kind of laid the groundwork for things that I think you absolutely need to know, how important it is for you to know your numbers, and understanding that, just having a GA4 account is not going to give you the outcome that you need. Google Analytics was a little, I thought was intricate. Like I say, that's why I ended up hiring Mercer back in the day to set it up for me. But I think the GA4 platform is when I go in there, my head blows up, like, it's just too much, right? And because I didn't know what I didn't know, when I started understanding that just because we set up the account, we were good to go. And that was a huge fallacy. And so that's what I want you to know too, is that, if that's where you are, you're probably not good to go. And so what do you do next? Well, you can, at a minimum, you do need to have a GA4, that should say GA4 account. So you need to have a GA4 account. Now, if you already have a Google Analytics account, all you have to do is log in to Google Analytics, click on the settings admin, find the property column, set up or select the UA property. I'll drop these instructions in the comments below, and then click the GA4 Setup Assistance and click the Get Started button. Now, that was only going to get you so far. Remember what I said? This is going to get you a GA4 account, but that's going to be worthless to you if you don't set it up. So what we decided is, through conversations with Mercer, is like, we need some help, Mercer. We're not set up right. And he's like, well, join the club. He said, I am swamped. He said, I've got people coming out of the woodwork, because remember I said we got 9 days to get this fixed. Well, it was a few more days back, but he said, everybody's waiting until the last minute. He said, my phone is ringing off the hook. I can't, people are trying to throw thousands of dollars at me because they need me to set it up. He said, I am overwhelmed. And I said, well, but Mercer, we need help. He's like, okay, let's talk about this. He said, how many people in your community probably need the same help? I'm like, I know there's a ton of them. I mean, there are probably people just like me who do not have this set up. And he's like, okay, this is what I'll do. He said, I will do a workshop for you. He said, it'll be an in-person workshop. So live, we'll do it together. We'll help you. So we're doing it. We're doing this too. So I'm inviting you along for the ride. So if you want to know that you're doing it right, I want to invite you to join us on this workshop, because Mercer is going to be teaching it in person. Now, his $10,000 package that I paid like in 2017 or 18 is now $60,000, y'all. So, and he's actually made that, increase that to like $100,000, because people are coming out of the woodwork throwing money at him to get their Google Analytics or their GA4 account set up, switched over, whatever. And so him doing this for us is like huge, huge, huge. I can't even tell you how excited I am. One, that he made the time to help us, and two, that he is giving me the opportunity to share it with you guys, because one, most of us can't afford $10,000, much less 60 or 100, right? Like, that is just way outside of our ability to support financially. So if what I've said has resonated and you're like, I know I need to get my Google stuff set up, I need to know my numbers, I know I need to do better, and you would like to spend a few hours with somebody that is a true pro, that is commanding huge fees to do this for other people. He's going to walk you through it step by step, live in person, doing the thing together. Then I want you to join us. Go to kimgross.com/Mercer. So this is the kicker though. Because this is a time sensitive thing. This is Saturday. So, if you're saying to yourself, well, that's short notice, I understand that. I also understand you may already have plans. You may think, well, wow, I can't, take my Saturday to do this. They are recording these, the workshop, and you can always tune back into it at a later point in time. But the key is, it is going to be a step-by-step, walk you through everything live in person with an amazingly, well, I was going to say incredibly sharp. He is that, but he's also so much more. He's, how some people are just your people. Like, he's our people. Like, he's just a really good guy who really cares about helping people do the thing, share his knowledge. I mean, that's really what he is so passionate about. So hopefully you'll join us. I'm going to open it up and see what kind of questions we end up having. Oh, yay. I'm so glad that we got some ahas coming in. So I was sharing some of the stories on the pricing, if can you imagine, like, I can't even imagine being able to go back in time and having the ability to pay Mercer $297 versus $10,000. Like, when he told me he would do a workshop for us, I was thinking to myself, golly, I mean, we know we need help. We need this. We can't hire him one-off because doesn't have the bandwidth to do it anymore. But how much is a workshop going to cost us? It's probably going to be expensive. So when he told me $297, I was like, I don't know. It's just this, like, are you serious? I mean, I thought he was joking. Seriously. I thought he was joking when he said, it was only going to be $297. So super, super good price. So go to kimgross.com/Mercer, MERCER. So Mercer, his name is Chris Mercer, but we all call him Mercer. And that's what he will tell you to call him as well, I'm sure. But definitely check it out. Like I say, if you would just like to get it done, like, just know that if you could spend a block of time, and I'm speculating that this is probably going to be 3 to 4 hours of time, but if you could spend 3 or 4 hours just getting it done, like, wouldn't that be amazing? And that, not only that, but knowing that it's done right. Because so another backstory here. But when all this started happening, I told the team, I was like, listen, just go in there, follow the instructions, and all should be good, right? Just go through what Google tells us to do. Knowing that, I'd had Chris set this up years ago, it should all be good. So that's what we did. And when I realized that, like, we were not ready, we did not do it right, that's when I realized, well, so many other people are probably in the same boat. Yes, Sue. I'm so I just answered that question. Sue's question is this still worthwhile if you've already set it up, but you want to make sure it's set up correctly? Yes, because that's what we did. We're like, we'll follow the instructions and everything will be right. But Mercer said that is not true. He said it has to be set up correctly. And it is not intuitive. In fact, at a baseline, Sue, go check out the sales page, because he answers that question on the sales page. At the various stages of where you are. Like, if you have no Google Analytics account, if you have a Google Analytics account, but you never really used it, or even if you've already made the transition, but you don't know if it's up and running right. Yeah, Rhonda's right. We were all floored. So going back to knowing that, there's a lot of top tier marketers in the room at this mastermind that we were at 2 weekends ago. And we were all looking around like, I don't know. I didn't know that, it was kind of, funny. Some of us, I think, were a little embarrassed to admit that we really weren't in the know like we should have been. Which, led me to think that maybe you guys aren't either. And I wanted to share what I know. And more importantly, help you solve the problem if you feel like you need a solution to the problem. And like I say, the price is amazing for what you're going to get. So like I say, you'll have Chris. It won't be somebody else. Chris is teaching this workshop for us. And you'll have access to, him during that window of time, as well as the recordings. And this is something we are doing, by the way. We will be on that training on Saturday. Oh, Rhonda makes another great. Let me just put some points that she's pulling up. So Rhonda is my integrator, and these are some of the things that she's just been pointing out. We thought we were set up, but we did not do it right. Biggie. Mercer shared all kinds of things that totally floored us, and again, true. And specifically how you can use this for marketing. And that was a big aha moment too. Like some of the things I shared from my personal stories around how the numbers matter to us, it goes so much deeper into, really leveraging the power of numbers from our perspective as marketers, because it's really designed for marketers, which is fascinating to me too. Because the Google Analytics platform straight up was all about the data, like the analytics piece of it, the numbers, more for the analyst than the marketer. Maybe that's the best way of saying it. But the GA4 platform is designed for the marketer. So, Carrie, that is such a great question, and I don't know the answer specifically to it. I'm speculating that the day, because I know Mercer's going to go into this as long as he needs to, because he told me he would. But I think it's going to be at least 4 hours is kind of what we've blocked off, if that helps any. And like I say, if you can't make it the whole time, you can always come back and watch the replays, because it will, or the recordings, it will be recorded. And you'll get the access to those recordings as well. I know it's a Saturday, but gosh, y'all, I mean, the fact that Mercer was even willing to do this, I was just so surprised, because one, I know he flat out told me, he's like, when I asked him, well, what would it cost for you to do this for me? He's like, Kim, I can't do it. I'm like, what? He's like, I am slammed right now. So the fact that he was willing to do this. And then when he came back with the idea of the workshop, I was like, well, it's going to be expensive. I know it's going to be, because, when he told me the price, I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Sign us up. And I'm going to invite everybody else to it too. So, all right. Anything else? Any other questions? Don't hesitate to ask. I'm just reviewing all the comments just to make sure I haven't missed anything. All right. Well, then I will see you on Saturday, okay? I'm foreshadowing that. I'm manifesting this for you guys, okay? Because I just think it's so important, and the price is just incredible, and the knowledge that you're going to gain and knowing that it's done right, it's going to be worth every penny and more. If you can just make one great decision around knowing your numbers and know that that's going to impact your revenue, I mean, this is just such a no-brainer for sure. So, all right. Sounds good. I will see you guys on Saturday. Okay. Take care. God bless.